Alrighty, we are a couple of minutes early. That's alright. So, I didn't stream yesterday. Thursdays are a difficult day for me to be able to stream. So some weeks I'll be able to do it, some weeks I won't. But I've been doing some work on the jet bikes. Just some of the colours that aren't going to be on other models. Just break his shoulder pad off. Oops. That's okay. That is a pretty quick fix. I may have just ruined the entire thing. One second. Just ruining a paintbrush to try and soak up the super glue that just landed on a part that shouldn't have glue. That's not a great way to start things today, is it? So, what I was going to say is I've been working on the exhaust housing. I did talk about adding blue into the exhausts for the actual jet engines. Whereas I still need to fix the Mechanicus logo that's there, and put the wash over the engine. There's also a couple of little spots where I've got to tidy up the gold, and at some point I've got to paint the missiles. So that's probably going to be tomorrow's work. None of that stuff's going to be stuff that's going on any of the other models. What I am going to be working on today is something that's on most of the models, which is the purple. So Heavy Violet from Vallejo. There was this one, and I had another purple that I'd been using. I think this is the one that I used as the base coats. If not, it was the darker one, and that one is Nagaroth Knight from GW. So we're going to start with this and see how we go. This is for the cloth, and there's little spots on most of the shoulder pads. Some of them have bigger spots where there's purple to denote that they are part of the equivalent shield. It looks about the right purple. I do have a darker Vallejo purple which is the same as Nagaroth Knight. I think that's out in the shed. Probably sitting with the airbrush, because that's where I'd been using it. But yeah. So on Thursdays I'm going to have a couple of appointments and stuff. So it's going to be really hard for me to make any streaming work on a Thursday. And yeah, this is the purple I've used. I'm pretty sure this is the purple I've used. Either way, when I wash it down, it's going to get close enough that you won't notice. I do find it a little annoying painting the robes on the bikes and stuff, because there's so many spots where it's just hard to get into them. There's also a lot of spots where it's hard to hard to show when I'm trying to get there. Also on the bikes is going to be this covering here. I can tidy up the silver if I make any mistakes, the silver and the gold, that can all be tied up later on. The purple here is just to really emphasize that they are a quill and shield, purple being the color that denotes that. So once we get this coat down here, I'll be able to show you. And what I will do is gloss coat the purple here so that it just matches a bit better with the shining gold on the rest of the bike. One of the spots that's been really tricky to get with the lead belcher has been that grill at the front there. I've put a couple of coats of lead belcher into it so far, and it's still showing up as the gold more than the lead belcher. It's weird too, looking at the LED on my camera in front of me. It looks blue on camera. Well, it looks blue on that screen, but on the main PC screen you can clearly tell it's purple. So I'm guessing it's a refurbished camera that I picked up a while ago. It's capable of outputting 1080. For some reason the computer will only pick up 720. I think I've mentioned, I think it's the capture card that I'm using because it was a $30 capture card. So that'll give you a better idea of how they're going to look towards the end. The cold weather has my nose all screwy. Despite being summer, oh no. Oh, that's right. Despite being summer, it's actually quite cool today. There's some unset glue there. I'm gonna stop on that right now before I wreck this brush and move on to the next bike. Sorry, I just appear to be having some technical difficulties. Is that better? Okay. My computer was showing that I wasn't connected for a minute there. Which is really odd because I can see it on several different screens. I think the weather might just not just be playing silly buggers with my nose, it could be playing silly buggers with my internet. It shouldn't have much of an effect on my internet, Everything's connected by cable and fibre optics. Or maybe it was just YouTube being silly. YouTube Studio's a bit finicky sometimes. Like if I put a typo in something or I forget to upload a thumbnail, for some reason it never updates when I post a link. So I end up having to go and delete a link and start a new stream schedule. I mean, realistically I should just check to make sure there's no typos before I schedule the stream, but I'm dumb like that. So one of the things that I really want to upgrade will be the capture card. Given how important capture cards are for streaming, I've put that as a pretty high priority. Just carefully, carefully. Yeah, that looks a bit better. Again, this is going to be one of those pain in the butt things to try and paint. Yeah, that one's just on the silver. I can fix that up on its own. So for the jet engines, all I done was some Baharoth blue through the airbrush, and then tied it up around the edges where there was a little bit of overspray. I probably could have got away with not having to clean it all up, but I think it looks a bit better not having the blue spray everywhere. It was in some areas where you just wouldn't get light from the exhaust. That was silly of me. I suppose that's why people use painting handles, so you don't handle this wet paint. I should find my other painting handles at some point. I don't have enough to use for an army like this though. 21 models, I don't feel like buying 21 painting handles no matter what brand they are. When I've tried to use them before, I always felt that they were just a little inconvenient for when I'm turning models around. So there we go. Once this all gets its second coat and proper opacity, should look pretty good. Oh. Actually, I'm missing an important step here, which is the same purple on the shoulders. So we just swap to a really fine brush. And there's now this shoulder is the annoying one because it's only A little dot in there and a little dot in there, and they are the most tiny and annoying spots to get, but kind of also really important. I've got the feeling that I've had some water sitting on the palette on top of the paper, and I've put the purple right near it because you can't really see it unless you shine a light just at the right spot, and my light is directly above. The Aquila on the front will be in silver, so that'll be a detail for after I've finished the purples. So that's right there. So most of the Custodian Guard are just going to be doing the shoulder pads, but for the Terminators, the Vexillus, and the bikes, there is cloth. Tomorrow I'm also looking at moving all my painting area out to the garage. I'll make a final decision on that tomorrow because I haven't organised a new desk for my computer in here. I was going to do that this week, but I've got other expenses, so that sort of stuff when you've got kids takes priority. Also, I had to pay for my tickets for Weird Al, my accommodation for seeing Weird Al. The 11th of March, I think it is. His second show in Melbourne at the Palais Theatre. Since it may well be the only time in my life I'll get to see him, I figured I'd head down and paid for VIP tickets. Right, is that all? That hasn't all dried up, and that's... I thought it was all dry. Normally super glue dries a lot faster than that. I like this brush. I don't want to lose this brush. Keep it away from the glue. Oh, on this one I didn't do the engine cover. Which I don't know how much of an engine that'd actually be there. Like it's obviously designed to be an engine cover. But the engine's there and the gen engines are there, so there's not really much of an engine that could be under there. Like, they're custody, so there's got to be some extra technologies in there. Given they've got view screens and stuff on in between the handlebars, there's probably some sensors and stuff. But really, that's a big space for not much. I mean, there could be some extra missiles in there and an autoloader. But even then, I wouldn't assume they need more than, what have they got, 10 missiles on there to start with? Five on each side. You can hear all the rain outside now. I've seen people in the Melbourne Facebook group talking about how they can't spray paint today. They've finally got a day where they can start spray painting because it's not too hot and it's raining instead, which is even worse. And the first coat is, because it's a metallic paint, I've noticed the first coat of a standard colour tends to get pretty slippery over top, pretty streaky over top because the paint is slippery. So while these coats are rather messy, they should get a lot better with the second coat. In fact, by the time you do a second coat, you're normally pretty close to full opacity, and a third coat's just to smooth things out even more. Smooth out the streaking. I'm kind of used to painting with metallic base coats, given my Space Marines a lead belcher as a base. Careful, careful. The lightning details on the shoulders get done with a slightly different metallic paint, so I'm not too stressed about painting over them, but I'm going to try and stay away from the silver, and then I'll paint right over the silver. I'd like to avoid coming back and having to repaint the silver for where the gems are. And then just because I can, if I take a second, I should be able to show what it's going to look like with the head on. Well, the head, the decoration that goes on top of the head, because I haven't got the heads painted yet. So that goes on top there, and gives you a much better idea of what the finished product will be. Obviously with the little face in the hole. Probably easier to do the shoulders first, because there's less chance of me putting my fingers all over it. Nice smooth coats. The heads are going to be an interesting challenge, because I am pretty bad at painting faces. So having to paint a face, well, 20 faces to a decent quality, it's going to improve my skills, but it's not going to be a fun time to start with. And every time I start a new army, I always try and learn a new skill with it. For the Necrons, it was really about applying how I make the metal look. So if you have looked back on the Scorpec Destroyers video, I've used some inks to add variation into metal, even though the metal itself is just a dry brush over black, and then a dry brush over the inks that I used. It's a really quick job, and that's why I was able to get so many done so fast. But learning the proper application of those inks helped me with another project, which was the I don't have a video for it, but I did I think a similar style with a Phoenix. But for the Retribution of Syra, the Hyperion, learning that level of control with the airbrush helped me add battle damage using an airbrush. So it wasn't directly what I was learning with the Necrons, but it was a skill that, because I'd done that with the Necrons, I could actually apply it somewhere else. And that's what I think of doing faces and power weapons and stuff like that. Learning to do the power weapons has been a way for me to start on the first steps down towards non-metallic metals, because my understanding is it's a very similar process. It involves a lot of the blending still, but with different colors and a different final result. my power weapon's still a little bit scrappy. They're not as refined as I've seen a lot of people do. Reminder of an example. It's not as bright and bold as a lot of people do. But it's all part of the learning process. So the lightning bolts are going to be done in peridot alchemy, which is a brighter version of the necro gold that I'm using for the base color. It's also going to be the same color will be used for highlighting the gold. And then in some parts it's going to be citrine alchemy, I think it is, mixed with peridot alchemy, 50-50. For just a final layer of highlights on the sharpest points. I'm not going to be edge highlighting the crap out of these models. It would take an eternity at the speed I edge highlight. So I'm just going to be pick out some details and do it as fast as I can. I've also done the wings on the shields in lead belcher, and I've done the same on the Vexilis. I don't remember if I showed them on camera. So there won't be another stream until Monday. All going well because if kids are home Monday for some reason, I probably won't be streaming. But the plan is just try and stream Monday through Wednesday, have Thursday off, stream Friday, and then Monday to Thursday again. So I'm going to try and keep the days that I'm not streaming for doing just standalone little things. It's also going to be the time that I'm going to try and do stuff like the faces, because I do not have I don't have a steady hand and I don't have a lens to show the real close-up of the faces. I've seen some people using software to add their phone onto OBS and then using the macro lens on their phones, but my phone doesn't have a macro lens, so I can't do that. Would be a really cool thing to do. And I have a stand that'd be perfect for holding the camera. But it's not something I'm going to be working on right now. And I'm not currently willing to spend the level of money it would require to upgrade all of my camera setup. Especially when the software I use for editing only lets me edit up to 720. Oh, only it lets me render up to 720. there are other better softwares out there for rendering quality, but in the future, if I upgrade from the free version, I can go up to 4K. But that won't be for a long time. I would need to be getting ad revenue off YouTube to afford that. And that's a long way away at the moment. Oh, already on that one. Next dude. You can see on this one, he was one of my test models. He's actually got a couple of highlights on him already. Well, hopefully you can see he's got a couple of highlights on him already. Originally, I was going to do a metallic purple on the shoulders, but the metallic purple I got upon testing looks a little more pinkish. Yeah, I'd say pinkish when it's painted over this metal. I don't really have the time to go through and test to see how many coats and stuff it would take to get the right purple out of it. Being such a small detail, I'm not gonna stress about it. At some point I've got to do some testing with it. It's called Amethyst, I think it was. Amethyst Alchemy. Because I've got a friend who wants to use it for his Orgoth. And I may be having a game Saturday night, a test game for Arc. So I'll be taking these guys out for a run, because there's still army rules and stuff that I have to get used to. As well as just, you know, the general, I don't get to play very much, so I need some practice to remember the 40k rules. I'm still waiting to find out if I'm going to get a copy of the Arcs of Omen GT book. I ordered a copy, then Games Workshop didn't send the copy to the store I ordered it from, so I haven't got it yet. They've been told they're getting more copies, but they haven't been told when. I'm hoping they don't do what they've done with the Nephilim book, where they assured us we were getting more copies for 6 months, none ever arrived, and the new GT book arrived. Because that was a really not cool move by GW. That they released a tournament book, then people couldn't buy it. I don't normally complain about much with GW because most of the time I'm enjoying what they do. That was a very silly move. Yeah, so these are getting painted for Arc40k, which is a tournament down in Melbourne. It's on the 4th and 5th of March, I think, are the dates. It's a 1350 point army. Using Arcs of Omen rules. The missions will be, if past history is anything to go by, custom missions made for the event. So we've got, hang on, this may be a little easier, because this camera is portable. We have an army there. There's a couple of other models that are being worked on. I also have Valerian and a shield captain. Trying my best to get all of the base colors laid in before I worry about any extra detail work, because the event requires me to have everything painted to a tabletop standard at minimum. Yeah, well, I'm glad that I didn't go with a horde army. Like, I can easily field armies without having to paint anything. I've got enough Necrons there painted, I've got enough Space Marines there painted, but I wanted to take something I haven't taken there yet. The first time I went, I took Space Marines. Last year when I went, I took Necrons. So I would like to do a new army this year. I would have loved to have run Sisters of Silence, but even I can't justify taking an army that's that bad. My dice rolls are against me enough. I don't need an army list that's against me as well. The few times that I've played Sisters of Silence, I've been removing models faster than I can put them down. As soon as you go above like 1,000 points with them, and even at 1,000 points they're not great, but as soon as you go above 1,000 points, you will not win. The Custodes secondaries hurt them rather than help them, and you just don't have enough units that you can take that do anything. Each individual squad is pretty good, but without a solid choice for anti-tank, you can't deal with anything like an Imperial Knight. You can try and throw 30 chicks with greatswords at it, but it's not going to be a good time for anyone. Even against the Psyker armies like Grey Knights and Thousand Suns, because they've still got bolt guns, your sisters just die. 3-up saves aren't bad, but if you force enough of them, they're going to fail. So I found the problem with Witch Seekers doing the pre-game move is that I was losing 3 to 4 Witch Seekers to explosions because I was rolling that many ones. It is a great plan for shielding Custodes, because they take down the transport, you're already up front, you're not going to get the custody psychic to death on the first turn. But they don't have the staying power, which is a real pity, because if you get a Knight Centurion with the there's a Warlord trait for +1 strength to your flamers and +3 range, so that is fantastic for your Witch Seekers to jump forward and burn the crap out of something. No, the stratagem +1 strength for flamers, and the Warlord trait's +3 range. But it hurts. I've been asking, like, I've been posting to GW for months and months and months, because there's the Charon Inquisitor model, which is their Forge World transport, and we can't use it in 40k. And that solves a lot of their issues, because it's a rather survivable vehicle. In Horus Heresy, it's a rather survivable vehicle. And it has anti-tank weaponry, and it's a transport. So you can take multiple of it and fix a lot of the issues. Running them as a screen for your custodies, again, a good option, because your custodies bring the extra tools that they need. But I kind of just want to run them on their own. I bought them to run them on their own, hoping they would get the custodies treatment of, like that, because I only started again in 8th edition. So in 8th edition I watched the new Custodies Codex come out and all these new kits, and I watched the Gene Stealers Codex come out and all these new kits. And I bought Sisters of Silence going, yes, it's going to be our turn. And nothing happened. Which is kind of on me for getting my hopes up, but at the same time, give me a Flami. I would love nothing more than to field like 150 Sisters of Silence and some transports in just one huge game. And lose miserably because I'm rolling ones, but having fun doing it. I took, there was a local tournament a couple of months back, and I took 1,000 points of Sisters of Silence there. And it was 4 rhinos with hunter killer missiles, I think, was in my list for 1,000 points. Because hunter killer missiles are the only option you get for anti-tank. And I was losing half my army every turn, every game, just dying out of the transports. And with changing in Arcs of Omen that you have to have models in your transports or you can't deploy the transport, I can't even just put the rhino down and put the girls behind it. And if I don't get first turn to bail out of the transport, I'm in trouble. But I live in hope. I hope that one day Sisters of Silence will get all the love. They really deserve it, given how many Sisters of Silence there are in the lore. By the end of Indomitus, it's said that there's 50,000 Sisters of Silence on Crusade. Reserving could help to a point, but it would only really help the bolter girls. Your Witch Seekers, and your not meant to knock the camera. The vigilators, because they rely so heavily on being up the board, they would not have a good time having to come on in your board edge and then try and make their way up the field. I've spent far too many hours working about it, working on how I could make it work. Another great option would be just let Sisters of Silence use the Custodes Land Raider and the Custodes Dreadnought in a detachment. Let the Sisters go in on Land Raider. No one will notice. Where do we get to? Yeah, double check the time. Still going. I didn't do the purple on these guys the first time. Oopsie. Yeah, some of the ideas I've been given aren't too bad for Sisters of Silence, but it all comes down to the same thing. They're just not very survivable, and most of your forces need to be up the field. If there was a stratagem so they didn't die jumping out, didn't die when a rhino blew up, that'd help. Well, it'd help me. Don't know how many other people it'd help, but it'd help me. But I'm also the sort of player that, like, I had a squad of Terminators charged by Fire Warriors, and they all died because one's on saves. It's how in melee actually doing stuff. There's one bloke who's like, "Oh, you shouldn't be relying on dice rolls to win the game." Like, it's not relying on dice rolls that's my issue. It's the fact that at some point I'm going to have to roll dice, and I'm going to fail that roll. In a game of rolling dice, there's only so much I can do to avoid rolling the dice. I mean, I could always go to using Sisters of Battle or Eldar, where I've at least got the option to use Fate dice and Miracle dice. But even then, I'm still relying on dice. I don't think there's a way to get enough Miracle dice and Fate dice that I can just ignore the entire phase. I'm just going to shoot here and not have to roll. I'm just going to wound here and not have to roll. I'm just going to say I make that save right now. It always seems that whichever pack of dice I pick for the day is the one that's going to be bad. If someone else borrows my dice, they're amazing. So I think the luck gods just don't like me. It doesn't stop me having fun. Actually, I say that. For some reason, my dice love making reanimation rolls for the Necrons. It can be really filthy at times. When I had Death Guard for a little bit in 8th edition, it was the same thing. Disgustingly resilient rolls. It was atrocious how many of those I was making in a turn. I played a game against Harlequins in the entire first round. I didn't lose a single model because of disgustingly resilient. Every time I had to make a disgustingly resilient roll, it was just enough to make sure I didn't lose a model. So maybe I should stick to those armies, but you know, got to change every now and then. Here comes the rain again. I'll double check time. Yeah, I've got to finish up shortly. It's nearly time to get ready to go pick up the kids. I'm gonna have to find my jacket. Haven't had to wear it for a while. So as always, I'm going to finish doing the purple probably tonight, and do some work on them tomorrow as well. I will this Alaris Custodian, because of the design on his robes, I will probably finish painting these robes tonight, and well, tonight and over the weekend. That way I don't have to worry about trying to, because I'm going to have to use the magnifying lens, but that way I don't have to worry about doing it on stream and blinding people with the light off the magnifying lens, since it is also the light that I'm using to light up these models. As I get further and further into doing these though, I do like the purple more and more. The way the purple and the gold come together. If only I'd started weeks ago, like doing this army properly, things would be a lot nicer. I'd have a lot more time, I could sit here, I could go right into detail. But that's what I get for procrastinating so much. That's why my missus tells me off about procrastinating so much. But she procrastinates too, so I don't take her seriously. When I'm doing the work over the weekend, I'm going to tidy up the tidy up the gold on these shoulders. With any luck, on Monday I can start on all of the brown detailing that needs to be done, all the leathers and stuff like that. Maybe I'll even get the heads finished for these guys and then I can put them together. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for the day. Because I'm going to have to run. So just a quick look again. That's where we're up to with the bikes. There's still some more details to be done on there. I've still got, there's a couple of spots on the spear where I've got to go through and touch up with the black again because I've not been too gentle with it. And that's the Terminators. And with that, have a good one.